We're here with Dave DeCamp from antiwar.com. You actually had some original reporting involved in this piece. So obviously the horrors continue in Gaza. American surgeon says Israeli strike on Gaza hospital could have killed him. Dr. Feroz Sidwa told antiwar.com he was on his way to treat a 16-year-old boy who was killed in the strike before being pulled into the ICU. So we'll read a little bit of this. Dr. Feroz Sidwa, an American trauma surgeon volunteering in Gaza, told antiwar.com that he came close to being hit by an Israeli airstrike that targeted the Nasser hospital in Khan Yunis on Sunday night and killed a 16-year-old boy he was treating. Sidwa said that he was on his way to the male surgical ward, which was hit by the Israeli airstrike when someone asked him to help with a patient who was bleeding in the ICU. So I went in there and helped, and about 10 minutes later, the explosion happened, Sidwa said. So I probably would have been standing right next to Ibrahim, the boy who died. Sidwa said that he planned to change the boy's medical dressing. I probably would have been standing next to him and talking to his family when that explosion happens if they hadn't pulled me into the unit like that, he said. The bombing also killed Ismail Barhoum, a member of Hamas's political bureau who was being treated at the hospital. The Israeli military took credit for the strike and said Barhoum was the target. So they admitted to just bombing a hospital because there was a Hamas target inside. You actually talked to Feroz. It's funny, we almost had Feroz on the show. We were supposed to, and then he got called into surgery, as sometimes happens with doctors. And we were never able to piece it together because obviously he's extremely busy. Hopefully we get to have him on someday. So did he reach out to you? Did you reach out to him to see if he was okay after this happened?
Yeah. I reached out to him. I was actually on my way back. I was just in a thing for New York, and someone texted me that the Nasser hospital was bombed, which is where Feroz was. So I reached out to him, and he got back to me the next day. I think Feroz, I interviewed him last year for my show. He got my attention. He volunteered in Gaza for the first time last year. And when he got back, he got together with other American healthcare workers who volunteered there. And they found out that they had very similar experiences. One of the things that really, got my attention was that they were all saying that they treated Palestinian children like toddlers with gunshot wounds to the head and to the
Yep.
chest, and sometimes twice. And there's nothing unintentional about that. So he's really a heroic guy because he got a lot of attention on this. And I really think, like, when they look back at this time in history, some of the strongest evidence for that people should have known that there was a genocide underway is these accounts from these American doctors and healthcare workers who come back and say that, the things that they witnessed. People should listen to Palestinians, but the fact is Americans are much more likely to take that more into account, hearing that from an American.
Right.
And they're essentially acting as journalists. Right now, Feroz, he's amazing. He's in this hospital. He's been under bombardment, and he's been treating people and basically, speaking, doing all this press. He's basically working as a doctor and a journalist. And so, that's a close call. You heard the story from him. He could have been killed in this strike, and Israel took credit for it. And, the point that Feroz made to me, which is, a very obvious point, this is a member of Hamas's political bureau. There's no allegation that he was engaged in any kind of militant activity at the hospital.
Right.
He was being treated at the hospital. Would it ever be acceptable to the U.S. or Israel if Netanyahu was hit while he was recovering from his recent prostate surgery in the hospital?
Right.
And so it's just completely outrageous. And, the thing Feroz called for is for the U.S. to stop giving bombs to Israel, of course, because imagine just being there, being an American, and seeing the consequences of your government supplying all these weapons to Israel. I also had a story from him the first night Israel restarted the massive bombings last week, and he said, he detailed some just horrific stories of children he treated. He said that virtually everybody that he operated on were women and children, and it's just completely crazy that this is going on, and all being 100% funded, supported, and enabled by the U.S. government.
What's so amazing about this, and especially infuriating about this, is that they knew one of their targets, like you said, a member of the political bureau. Let's just say it was a militant, it was a combatant, and they wanted him dead. They've raided hospitals before, so you know a person is in there being treated. You know they're not shacked in there with weapons, and they don't pose an immediate threat. You can't send personnel in there to arrest, to detain, whatever you're going to do to the one person. You you conduct an airstrike on the hospital, knowing you're going to kill innocent patients and their doctors. They just clearly don't care. And what is, to my knowledge at least, unique about this one is they took credit for it. Usually they try to deny it. Usually they try to say, remember when they laid siege to Al Shifa Hospital? They said it's because there were tunnels under it, and then the Washington Post did an investigation and found out that there was no evidence to back their claims. This, they just come out, what, the day after? Yeah, we did it because there was one guy in there who we wanted. So we just fired on a hospital with a missile.
Yeah, and destroyed the whole surgical ward.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I asked the State Department, I tried to word it in a way that they would maybe give me an answer. I just sent the question to the State Department explaining the situation. Like, the guy was killed. Israel took credit for it, according to an American surgeon. It destroyed the surgical ward, killed a 16-year-old boy. And then I just asked, does the U.S. support this strike and other Israeli targeting of hospitals? And they actually got back to me today. I think I sent it like Sunday night.
Yeah, you posted this on your X, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just a long, just like word salad, not answering the question. And it's not a no. It's basically just trying to put all the blame on Hamas, even though it's Israel launching an airstrike on a hospital. And yeah, I mean, it goes to show. It's just, I think they believe they have, with this Trump administration, they just have total impunity. I mean, they could just do whatever they want. And that is the messaging. This woman, the new State Department spokeswoman, Tammy Bruce, her line the other day was, I forget exactly what it was, but it was something like, we stand in Israel in every circumstance, basically, no matter what they do, we're behind them.
Please clap.